Hello and welcome to another exam paper walkthrough. Today we are doing the Maths Teacher Hub predicted paper 2. So this was shared with me quite recently. My school does have a login to Maths Teacher Hub. You can check out all of their resources on www.mathsteacherhub.com. Really good revision site. Okay, so we will I haven't done this paper yet, so we'll see how I get on with it, and we shall start. So, question 1, convert 240 meters squared into centimeters squared. So, the key fact that we need to look at here is that 1 meter, let me get my pen on, sorry. There we go. So, let's turn it on properly. We'll go blue to start with. So 1 meter squared is going to be equal to 100 times 100, so it's going to be equal to 10,000 centimeters squared. So 240 meters squared is going to be equal to 240 times by 10,000, so it's going to be 24 million. So it's in effect going to be 24 with 4 5 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be 2,400,000. Question 2. Two companies have a special offer on the same protein bars. So Muscles are a special offer 15 bars per box, 2 boxes for £33. Fitness House special offer 12 bars per box, £21 per box. Order 2 boxes, get 1 box for free. The local gym wants to stock up the vending machine. Which company offers better value for money? So if we start by actually looking at applying whatever deal we've got from each company, if we start with MRU, or Muscles Are Us, we would get 15 bars per box, 2 boxes for £33. So in effect we would get 15 times by 2 for £33. So 30 boxes for £33. I'm not necessarily finished there, but I'm going to start now looking at Fitness House, or FH. So 12 bars per boxes, £21 per box. Buy 2 boxes, get 1 for 3. So we're actually looking at 3 boxes there, and each box contains 12. So 12 times by 2. So, no, sorry, 12 times by 3. 12 times by 3, and that would cost us, we would only be paying for 2 boxes, so that would cost us 21 times by 2. So we would get 36 boxes for a total of £41. So then we need to make a unit comparison. We could have kind of looked for a lowest common multiple. I'm going to go and say from Muscles Are Us, 1 box is going to cost me, and I'll use my calculator for this. So I'm going to do, let's just get my screens right. So 33 divided by 30, let's try that again. 33 divided by 30 is going to give us £1, 10 per bar, 1.1 per bar. And then for the second company, FH, I'd get 1 bar for 41 divided by 36. So 1.138. So which one is better value? Muscles Are Us are better value. So let's go back to the actual name. Muscles Are Us are better value. Okay, question 3. Here is some information about the times that teachers had their lunch yesterday. So we've got times. What percentage of teachers had lunch less than 20? What percentage of teachers had less than 20 minutes for lunch? Okay, so by a stem and leaf diagram. By a box plot. each section represents 25%. So this is the so what it does is it splits the data into 25%. So we've got this section that we're after, so that's going to be 75%. Okay, question 4. Tony wants to work out how many fish there are currently in his local fishery. Last month, Tony caught 15 fish and took photographs of them before returning them. Last week, Tony returned to the fishery and caught 26 fish, of which 3 of them he recognised. Estimate how many fish are in the pond. So I tend to do this as comparison fraction. So out of the full population, he caught 15. And then the second time around, that's going to be equal to the proportion that I caught the last time. So you can have your ratio, your fractions the other way around. I just find this slightly more straightforward in terms of my next step. So x is going to be equal to 26 times by 15 divided by 3. And could do this without a calculator, I'm sure, but on a calculator paper there's no advantage to doing that. So I'm estimating the population to be 130. Right, question 6. Work out the value of A and B. Okay, so to do this, I'm gonna go from this point here. I'm gonna say that if I just tidied this up slightly, that would not tidied this up. Remove the bracket, so that would be A to the B times T to the minus 3B. And then I can kind of compare my coefficients. So those two would be equal. So minus 3b has to be equal to minus 9. So b would be equal to 3. And then I can say if I do the cube root, because I found b to be 3, the cube root of 343. I say shift 343. I might have misspoken there. Gives me a value of 7. So A is going to be equal to 7. Let's tidy that up slightly. There we go. Okay, solve 2x squared minus 5x plus 1 is equal to 0. Give your solution to one decimal place. So that's implying that we're going to be using the quadratic formula. We could complete the square if it was on a non-calculator and it wasn't asked to one decimal place. So we may as well just use the quadratic formula. So x is going to be equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of 4ac minus, sorry, it's a pain that my rubber's not working. I've written my quadratic formula wrong. So it's minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. So if we substitute in our values, then I'll just put it here. A is going to be equal to 2, b is going to be equal to minus 5, and c is going to be equal to 1. So I'm looking at minus 5, so 5, plus or minus the square root of minus b squared, which is just going to be 5 squared, minus 4 times a, so minus 4 times 2, which is going to be 8, all divided by 2 lots of a, so all divided by 4. I missed out the c there. It doesn't really affect anything there though. Right, so I'm going to go to my calculator then and type it in like that. So I'm going to do the minus version first of all. So that gives me, I'll write that down. So it's going to be equal to 5 plus or minus root 17 over 4. So as a decimal, my first value is, so I'm going to get 2, give your solutions. So my first value is going to be 0.219. So we'll write them both here. So we've got 0.21922 dot dot dot, and then my other value, so or and then I'm just going to replace that minus with a plus. So 2.280776 ... So my two values then to one decimal place are going to be 0.2 or 2.3. Okay, question 7. Work out the ratio of B to C. So in effect, we can view these as ratios. So I'll put them as 3 parts to start with, A to B to C. And your method for actually how you do this is slightly up to you. The reality is, though, if A, we can kind of almost view this as a ratio. A to B is 4 to 5. Another way you could view that is if you cross multiply, you'd have 5A is equal to 4B, and then actually to split that into a ratio, I would need 4 lots of A to be equal to 5 lots of B. And for my second one, A to C, same process, we'll go 3 to 4. So my A's are my comparable part, so I want to make them both 12s. To do that, I would need to times the first ratio by 3, so that would become 15. And I would need to times the second ratio by 4, so that would become 16. So that's my ratio. I want to give it ratio of B to C in the ratio n to 1. So I'm going 15 to 16. Actually, we can pretty much do it here. 1 to 15 divided by 16. To be fair, I think leaving it as a fraction is absolutely fine. So I'm going to say find the value, give your answer in the ratio in the form n to 1. So I'm going to go 15 16ths to 1. Okay, question 8. Eva's garden is in the shape of a rectangle. She has a semicircle plot of grass, section of grass. She wants to put a gravel everywhere that there is no grass. Okay, a bag of gravel costs £5.49 and can cover 0.4 meters squared. Work out the total cost to buy the gravel. So realistically, I need to work out the area of the shaded section. So to do this, I'm just going to add on the fact that the radius of that circle is going to be 4 meters. So the area of the shaded section is going to be equal to 8 times by 4.5. Subtract the area of the semicircle, which is going to be equal to pi times by 4 squared divided by 2. So 8 times by 4.5 minus, as a fraction, shift pi times by 4 squared divided by 2. That gives me 10.867 ... meters squared. And we're looking at how many bags. So if I divide that by 0.4, that will tell me how many bags I need. So I should have really written that better. Let me clear up that writing because I'm not really happy because that's not the same sum. So I'm going to do, I won't write the whole thing out again, but I will write the area divided by 0.4. Just double check my figure there. 0.4. Yeah. So 0.4 is going to be equal to that value divided by 0.4 is going to be 27.168 ... So I'll need 28 bags. So the cost of which is going to be 28 multiplied by the price per bag. So the price per bag is £5.49. So I'm going to do 28 times by £5.49, which will give me, so 28 times by 5.49 gives me a value. What have I typed in wrong? 2 times. So the price is going to be £153.72. So £153.72. Okay, here's the perimeter of a football pitch, and we're given some measurements in yards. Calculate the length from corner flag A to corner flag C, giving your answer to the nearest integer, nearest whole number then. So I want the diagonal of a triangle, and we're told that AB is 110 yards, and we're told that BC is 70 yards. So AC is going to be equal to the square root of 110 squared plus 70 squared. So square root of 110 squared plus 70 squared is going to give me 10 root 170, which is going to give me as a decimal 130.384 ... Giving your answer to the nearest integer, that would be 130 yards. Because that's the measurement that we're using. Right, question 10. Table shows heights of some members of a gymnastic team. Estimate the mean height. So to estimate the mean height, I'm going to have to take the midpoint of each group. So that's going to be 125, 135, 145, and 155. So I'm going to have to times each midpoint by the frequency and divide it by the number of terms, the total frequency. So I'm going to do 125 times by 14 plus 135 times by 26 plus 145 times by 36 plus 155 times by 4, and I want to divide that by 14 plus 26 plus 36 plus 4. And I can type that in just like that as long as I'm careful. So 125 times by 14 plus 135 times by 26 plus 145 times by 36 plus 155 times by 4, and I want to divide that by 14 plus 26 plus 36 plus 4. So that gives me 555 divided by 4. And as a decimal, that's going to give me 138.75. And I've just spotted it said correct to 1 decimal place, and I've gone 2, so let's just correct that. So that's going to be, let's say over here, that's going to be 138.75. So to 1 decimal place, that's going to be 138.8. Question 11. Here is some data about favourite movie genres. So we've got comedy, we've got our genre, we've got our frequency. State the modal class. So the modal class is the group that contains that happens the most. So that's going to be comedy. Draw an accurate pie chart to show this information. So I'll snip this over into my snipping tool just to help me out for this. But first of all, I'm going to work out the size of each angle. So I'm going to say that the angle for each side is going to be equal to, and I need the total frequency. So 24 plus 12 plus 18 plus 14 plus 12 is going to give me 80. So the size of each angle, so each frequency is going to be worth 300. I'll do it here, 360 divided by 80. So 360 divided by the answer that I just had. So each person's decision, or each frequency, is going to be worth 4.5 degrees. So I'm going to times all of these by 4.5. I'm just going to put that. So my first angle size, I'm going to put 4.5 in first of all, times by 24 gives me an angle of 108. My next one is going to replay and change the 24 to 12. So 54. My next one, change the 12 to 18. 81. Then got changed my angle size to 14, so 63, and then finally times by 12. It's already done times by 12, but 54. Right, so I'm going to take this over to my snipping tool then, just because I can kind of demonstrate the drawing of angles a little bit better. Let's try that one more time. Okay, so I couldn't quite get my snipping tool to work. So what I've done is I've just done a print screen and brought in a protractor. Hopefully I can kind of demonstrate this fairly well with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is put my center of my protractor on the angle, and then I'm going to use my pen to measure 108 degrees, which is the size of the first angle. So I'm going to go 108 is going to be roughly going from the inside numbers, 108, we're looking at pretty much there. So then I take my protractor off my page, and then hopefully I can bring in a straight line. So I want it. So through the center of my circle, and then hitting the line that I just drawn, and then place my protractor back on, and this time spin my 0, and this may well throw it out slightly. There we go. So run down my 0 line, and this time I'm measuring an angle of 54, so I'm slightly out with my 0 line. So let's just spin it one. There we go. So I'm measuring this time 54 degrees. So 54 would be about there. And again, I'm going to bring in a straight edge. So you're obviously going to use your ruler for this. So I want to do another straight line, and I'm going from the center of my circle of my pie chart through the line. So that's my second section. I'm then going to spin my 0 line back around again. That looks. So we need to spin it a bit more. And then this time I'm measuring 81. So going from the inside numbers again, 81 is going to be there. So back to my lines. So again, center of my pie chart through the line, and then my final section should be, well, not my final section. I'm looking for a 63-degree angle. So I'm looking for 63. So starting at 0, 63 is going to be about there. And then provided I've done that right, my final angle should match. So through the center, through the point, and then let's see how well we've drawn this. So my final angle then should be, if I've drawn it accurately, we should be looking at roughly 54, which is pretty much bang on. So we're fine with that. So now I need to label mine. I should have done this really as I was drawing them, but I've got comedy. That's my first section. Then I've got animated. Then I've got action. Then I've got horror. And then finally science fiction. There we go. Okay, and back to it then. So I've done that on the snipping tool. Well, not on the snipping tool. I did it on Word in the end. So question 12. Thomas has saved up $3,500 for his summer trip. He's planning to head to the USA and then maybe Canada. We've got a conversion of £1 equals $1.25. Calculate how many US dollars Thomas can get for his trip. So we're just doing 3,500 times by the conversion. So 3,500 times by 1.25. So $4,375. So $4,375. Thomas decides to head to Canada for the last week of his trip. He converts the remaining money into Canadian dollars, and that's the conversion. Thomas now has 1,976.50 Canadian dollars. For the final week, calculate how much Thomas spent whilst he was in the USA. So if we take his initial amount of dollars, we subtract no, I'm going to change my mind on that plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm going to work out how many dollars he would have had, how many dollars he's got left. So if I do 1,976.50 divided by the conversion 1.34, that will tell me how many dollars he's got left. So 1,976.5 divided by 1.34. So he had $1,475. So the amount that he spent whilst in the USA in dollars would be these two figures subtracted from each other. So 4,375 minus 1,475. So he spent $2,900. Is it asking us for it in dollars? It is, yes. So we don't need to do any further conversion. So 2,900. Right, question 13. Shape A is reflected in the line y is equal to 1 to give shape B. Shape B is now reflected in the line y is equal to 3 to get shape C. Describe fully the single transformation that maps A onto shape C. Well, if we imagine a point, so it genuinely doesn't matter which point we look at. If we imagine the point 0, 0, if we reflected that in the line y is equal to 1, so reflect that in the line y is equal to 1, that would give us the coordinate so it would be 1 above, so that would be the coordinate of 0, 2. And then if we reflected that in the line y is equal to 1, y is equal to 3, that would give us the coordinate of 1 above, so that would give us 0, 2, and then do the second translation, second reflection, that would take us to the point 0, 4. So the single transformation would be a translation. And then if we've gone from this coordinate to this coordinate, it's been a translation of 0, 4. And that would work for any point. You could do the same process for any point. Okay, question 14. Hector has taken 7 history tests so far this year. After his 6th test, his mean score was 82%. After his 7th test, his mean score dropped to 79%. Calculate the score he obtained in the 7th history test. Well, if we kind of look at the combined scores, so after his 6th test, so when he'd taken the 6th, his mean score was 82. So that means that his total score would have been 7 times by 82. And in his 7th test, his mean dropped to 79. So let's put plus n for his mean for his last one. And then that's going to be equal to 79 times by 7. So if we do 6 times by 82, that would give us 492, plus the score that he scored in the 7th test, and that's going to be equal to 79 times by 7. So we're 553. So we know that his score is going to be less than 79. Less than 79. So if I do that, subtract 492, that's going to give me 61 for his final score. Right, question 15, work out the value of x. Well, these are going to be vertically opposite angles, and vertically opposite angles are equal. So we're going to say that 3x minus 30 is going to be equal to x plus 80. And minus x from both sides and add 30 to both sides, I would get 2x is equal to 110. Halve both values or both sides, x would be 55. For the second part, work out the value of y. Well, they're supplementary angles, so it's going to be equal to, y is going to be equal to 180 minus 55, which is going to give me 125. Let's just double check that. It's been a long day. Yeah, 125. Okay, question 16. Complete the table of values for 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. So I'm going to use the table function on my calculator for this. So I'm going to go into the third mode. And I'm going to type the function in like that. So 2 times by alpha x squared. I don't really need the times, but it's good practice. Times by 3 times by alpha x minus 2. So that enters the function. Let's just check 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. So that matches the function here that we're trying to draw. If I press equals, I have the option of putting a second function in, but I don't need a second function. I want to start at minus 2. I want to go up to 3, and I want to go in steps of 1. So that gives me all of my values. So when x is minus 2, y, or the function, should be 12. 3 minus 2 matches, minus 3, and then I can use my replay button to go down 7. So table function on your calculator can be quite useful for drawing your tables like that. So I'm going to plot that then. So at minus 2, I'm looking at the value 12. At minus 1, I'm looking at the value 3. At 0, I've dropped down to minus 2. At 1, I'm looking at the value minus 3. I've then got 2, 7, and then finally, I've got 2, 0, and then finally 3, 7. Then I want to join these with as smooth a curve as I can, so keeping your wrist on the inside is always going to get you a smoother curve. I kind of struggle with this on a screen, but that's not too bad. I'm not really happy with that section of my graph. So if I was you, I would have drawn it in pencil, so I can use my eraser just to, and I'd love to just do that part, but it's going to do the whole line, and then I can just draw that part again slightly better, hopefully. Slightly better, not a lot better. You should be able to do a smooth curve as you can using a pencil and keeping your wrist on the inside of the curve. Right, use your graph to find the roots of the equation. So our original equation was y is equal to 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. So our difference here is we've replaced y with 1. So I'll change my paint color for this. So I'm going to draw the line y is equal to 1 here. So that's the line y is equal to 1. And I want the two intercepts. So they intersect roughly at minus 0.7. I'm going to say minus 0.7 and 1.2. Sorry, 2.2. So there we go. Those are my two roots for the equation. Okay, question 17. Reflect shape A in the line y is equal to x. Label the shape B. Reflect shape B in the line x is equal to minus 1 and label it C. So I'll put on my first mirror line is this line here. Y is equal to x. So if I'm reflecting this shape, that's going to be an invariant point. It doesn't move its position. That point is going to move to there, and then that point is going to move to there. So that's going to be my first transformation, and label it B. And then my second one is in the line x is equal to minus 1. So the line x is equal to minus 1 is going to be this line here. So to reflect in that line, that point would move to there, that point would move to there, and that point would move to there. And again, obviously you'd be using a ruler and a pencil for this and have it much more accurate with straight lines, but those would be your coordinates. Right, to describe the single transformation that maps A onto C. So A onto C, I think we can see by inspection that it is a rotation of 90 degrees. So if you imagine moving this shape onto this shape, we've got to move 90 degrees in a anti-clockwise direction. So I'm going to go 90 degrees, sorry, I'm going to go rotation of 90 degrees anti-clockwise. 270 clockwise would be okay, and then I would need to find my point of rotation. So let's kind of look, where do I think I'm going to get a 90-degree angle? It looks like there. So if I imagine 4 to the right, 1 up becomes 4 up, 1 to the left, so that would work fine. So center of rotation is at minus 1, minus 1. Right, question 18. Calculate the length of EG. Given your answer correct to one decimal place, so I'm going to call that x for now. We're using some trigonometry here, so this is going to be the hypotenuse. This would be the opposite, and our trig ratio that involves the opposite of our hypotenuse is the sine ratio, so SOH. We're trying to find h. So the hypotenuse is going to be equal to the opposite divided by sine of the angle. So x is going to be equal to 12 divided by sine of 64, which is going to be equal to, let's go back into my calculator mode. So 12 divided by sine of 64 is going to give me the value of 13.35. 122 ... so to one decimal place, that's going to be 13.4. Okay, question 19. How much longer does it take to travel 80 miles at a speed of 50 miles per hour than at 10 miles per hour? Okay, so speed is equal to distance divided by time. So we're trying to work out time. So time is going to be equal to speed divided, distance divided by speed. So for the first one, if I look at 80 first of all, I'm looking at a time of 80 divided by 50. So if I look at 50 first of all, struggling with not having my eraser to hand easily here. So 50. So 80 divided by 50, which is going to be equal to 8 over 5, but 80 divided by 50 is going to be, as a decimal, 1.6, and if I wanted to convert that into time function, So that's going to be, I've used my time function there just to convert that into hours and minutes. So 1 hour and 36 minutes. And then I'll do the same for 60 miles per hour. So that's going to be time is equal to 80 divided by 60 this time, which is going to be 4/3. But 80 divided by the 60 is going to give us that. So if I do my answer and convert that into minutes, and so that's going to be 1 hour and 20 minutes. So the difference there is going to be 16 minutes. Okay, question 20. So village of B is on a bearing of 065 from F. It's also on a bearing of 305 from K. Locate on the diagram, mark it with an X, work out the exact distance. So again, I'm going to cut this onto another page. Okay, so I've just snipped this into Word just so I can kind of demonstrate it a little bit better. So from F, I need to measure a bearing of 65 degrees, or 065. So bearings are measured from a northerly direction. So I need to mark on a 65-degree angle. So 65, I'm going from the outside numbers, so 65 is going to be there. So if I draw a straight line then, so I want to insert, not draw. So straight line going from F through that point that I've just marked. And then I need to measure from Kingham 305. So 305, if I do 360 minus 305, I'm going to get 55. So I want 55 from the opposite side. So let's spin my protractor around to the opposite side. Place that on the center. And then I'm measuring a 55-degree angle. So 55 is going to be there. And again, I want a straight line going through that point. So where the two lines cross is going to be my point that I'm going to mark with an X. So let's just make it a bit clear. That's my point. Okay, work out the exact distance between K and B. So if I measure that distance between K and Bakeley, so this is Bakeley here. So I need to measure this line. So using my ruler, I need to measure that line. I'm going to do this on my sheet here. So I make it 6.2 centimeters. So my final part, I'm going to move back to my original. So here, so I make that to be 6.2 centimeters. And I'm using a scale factor of 1 centimeter to 3.5. So 6.2 times by 3.5 is going to be equal to 6.2 times by 3.5 gives me the value of 21.7. 21.7 kilometers. Okay, question 21. Olivia will invest £800 into a cash saving ISA. Her bank have offered her a compound interest rate of 4.2% per annum. Olivia will add an extra £800 at the start of year 2 and another £800 at the start of year 3. Work out how much will be in the account at the end of year 3. So in effect, what I want is 2 years of that interest, so times by 1.42 squared. Once I've done that, I need to add on £800. and then times that by the interest rate. And I've messed up my interest rate here. Let's get my eraser involved. That would be a 42% interest, which would be amazing. 0.42. So once I've added the 800, I need to times that by by 1.042. I then need to add on 800 to that, and then times that by the interest again. Okay, and I'm going to type that in like that. So I need to start with a double bracket, 800 times by 1.042 to the power of 2, to the power of 2, and then I need to add on 800. And then times that by 1.042 plus 800. And then I need to times that by 1.042. How much will be in the account? So that should be the amount that's in the account. And I've messed up very slightly here. So we don't have 2 years before the interest rate is added on, so I shouldn't have done that squared. So I'm just going to change that and then alter that on my calculation. So I need to delete the squared. There we go, that's more like it. So I'm looking at £2,607, 30407. So if I'm quoting that, I would quote it to two decimal places. So I'd go 2,607.30. Okay, question 22 then. Fish tank is in the shape of a cuboid. The fish tank is 3/4 full. Calculate how many litres of water there are in the fish tank. Okay, so I know that 1,000 centimetres squared is equal to 1 litre. So based on that, I'm going to do 3/4 of 30, or 3/4. 4/5 times by 30 times by, that would be 80 centimetres, times by 30. So the total volume in the tank is going to be 4/5 times by 30 times by 80 times by 30. So we've got 56,600 litres in the tank. So if I do the volume divide, if I do the total volume divided by 1,000, that's going to give us, divided by 1,000, that would give us 57.6 litres. So 57.6. Okay then, question 23. Find an expression in terms of n for the nth term of this sequence. So let's maximise that because we don't need a calculator just yet. So differences between these numbers then, so I've got a difference of 9, difference of 13, difference of 17, and a difference of 21. So the second differences are 4, 4, and 4. So because of that, it means that there must be a 2n squared somewhere in the sequence. So if I start by looking at what 2n squared would give me, 2n squared is going to give me the numbers 2, 8, 18, 16, 32, and 50. If I then compare that to the sequence, the difference then, let's go, the sequence, take away the term that I've got so far. We've got -2, we've got a 1, we've got a 4, we've got a 7, and we've got 10. So if I was to describe this series of numbers, they have a constant difference of 3. So this sequence here would be 3n, and from that I would need to subtract 5. So my total sequence is going to be these two parts added together. So I'm looking at 2n squared plus 3n minus 5. Okay then, 24, work out the highest common factor of A and B. So that's the factors that they have in common. They just have a 2 and a 3 in common. So 2 times 3 would be my highest common factor, or 6. Lowest common multiple is the highest power of each combined. So 2 squared times by 3 squared times by 5 times by 7 times by 11. So if I just go straight to my calculator for that, 2 squared times by 3 squared times by 5 times by 7 times by 11, that's going to give me 13,860. Okay. Right, question 25. The normal size cereal box is mathematically similar to the travel size cereal box. Surface area of the front face of the larger box is 630. The surface area of the front face of the smaller box is 70. Work out the volume of the travel size cereal. Okay, so we've got a couple of stages here. I'm going to start by working at the area scale factor, or I'm going to just call that SFA. So the scale factor for the area is going to be equal to 630 divided by 70, which is going to be 9. So that means that the area scale factor, I should have called that SFA. So let's set things out correctly. So the scale factor for the length is going to be square root of that, so 3. So the scale factor for the volumes is going to be 3 cubed, which would be 27. Okay, I now need to work out the volume of the larger box. What I'm told is if we have the area of the front face is 360, I need to times that by 12, so the volume of the larger box is going to be equal to volume of the larger box is going to be equal to 630 times by 12, which is going to be equal to, let's bring my calculator back in at this point. So 630 times by 12 is going to give me 7,560. So the volume of the smaller one is going to be that divided by 27. So the volume of the smaller box is going to be 7,560 divided by 27. So that's going to give me 280 centimeters cubed. Okay, question 26. The mass of a gold bar is 1.2 kilograms, correct to 2 significant figures. The volume of the bar is 62 centimeters cubed, correct to the nearest integer. Calculate the upper bound of the density of the gold bar, and we're looking at the volume, the unit for that, to be grams per centimetre cubed. Okay, so density is going to be equal to mass divided by volume. So we want, for the upper bound, so we want the density max. We're going to take the mass max, and we're going to divide it by the volume minimum. So that's going to be equal to, if the mass of the gold bar is 1.2 kilograms, then the M max is going to be equal to 1,200 grams. So the maximum that could be is 1,250. And then if we look at the volume minimum, so to the nearest integer, the smallest that could be would be 61.5. So our maximum density is going to be 1,250 divided by 61.5. So we're looking at a value of 20.32520. So that correct three significant figures is going to be 20.3. Right, that's not very helpful. Okay, 20.3 grams per centimetre cubed. Okay, question 27. The table shows the amount of students in each year group in Ridgeway Academy. So a sample of 60 students is going to be taken. The sample is stratified by year group. How many from each year group should be sampled? So I need to work out the total frequency. So we're looking at 187 plus 90 plus 63. So we're looking at a total of 340. So for each group size, we really need to. So I'm going to say 340 divided by 60. I probably should have done this the other way around. So each person, I'm gonna do that the other way around. Not that it particularly matters. So 340. Could have just flipped my fraction over. So 60 divided by 340 is going to be equal to 3/17. So I need to times each of these by 3/17 to find out the sample that I would need from each group. So I'm going to write them down before I round, because we'll see how this works. 33. So 90 times by 3/17 is, and I missed out my 17th, is going to be, as a decimal, 15.88. And then 63 times by 3/17 is going to be 11.117 ... So I'm going to go 33, 16 and 11, and then I just need to double check that they add up to 60. So yeah, so I'm going to go 33, 16 and 11. Okay, question 28. We've got a regular octagon. The area of the triangle is 18 centimeters squared. Calculate the length of AB. So the length of AB. Okay, so the first thing that I really need is the interior angle. So the interior angle is going to be, if I do 180 minus the exterior angle, which would be 360 divided by 8. So the size of each interior angle is going to be equal to 135 degrees. So I'm going to use the area of a triangle is equal to a half AB sine C. And I'm going to call, for now, I'm going to call those lengths x. So that is going to be, the area 18 is going to be equal to a half of x squared times by sine of 135. So if I rearrange that a little bit, then I'm going to get x squared is going to be equal to 18 times 2 is 36 divided by sine of 135. So that's going to be equal to 36 divided by sine of 135. So 36 root 2. So square root that x is going to be equal to square root that answer 7.135 ... So to 2 decimal places, that's going to be 7.14. Okay, question 29. Calculate the angle CAB. So I want that angle there. So we're given 3 sides, so I'm going to be using the cosine rule. So a squared is going to be equal to b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos of the angle cos A. Right, so I'm going to rearrange that to get cos A. So cos A is going to be equal to a squared minus b squared minus c squared divided by 2bc. So if we put in our values now, so that would be a, that would be, doesn't really matter between b and c. So I'm looking at doing 25 squared minus 17 squared minus 15 squared divided by 2 times 17 times 15. So I'm going to type this in straight into my calculator as cos to the minus 1 of that. So shift cos, and then I'm going to go fraction button 25 squared minus 17 squared minus 15 squared, all divided by 2 times 17 times by 15. And that should give me my answer. Let's close my bracket off. So I'm looking at 77.429. Okay, so I've just been looking at this. I look like I've actually rearranged incorrectly. So I've got a minus here. So actually, if I'd rearranged it that way, I should have divided by minus 2bc. So let's just try that. So that's the answer I should have had. Yeah, so let's just alter that to a minus there as well. So apologies, I've rearranged poorly there, bit of a rush. So that would have been 102.5708. So to 1 decimal place, that's going to be 102.6. Okay, question 30. Here is the net of a cone. Work out the area of the circle face. Work out the area of the circle face. Okay, so I want to work out the arc length to start with, and that's going to be the circumference of the circle. So the arc length is going to be equal to 145 divided by 360 times by the diameter of a circle, which would be pi d, or 18 pi. So the arc length is going to be equal to, and to be fair, we'll actually jump a step here. No, we'll do it like this. So 145 over 360 times by 18 pi. that gives me 29 over 4 pi. So the arc length is equal to the circumference of the circle. So what are we actually asked to work out the area? So I'm going to say that 2 pi r is going to be equal to 29 over 4 pi. So I cancel that and that. So the radius is going to be equal to 29 over 8. So that's going to be my radius. So the area of the circle is going to be equal to pi r squared. So that's going to be equal to shift pi times by 29 over 8. Should have really put this in brackets. That does work. I'm just double checking that 29, that squared is acting on the whole thing. So I'm looking at 41.2824. So to two significant figures, that's going to be 41 centimeters squared. Okay, question 30. Solve the simultaneous equation. So I'm going to rearrange this equation into being, let's just zoom in a bit on this if I can. I'm going to rearrange that to say that y is going to be equal to 2x plus 3. So x squared plus y squared, which is 2x plus 3, all squared is going to be equal to 18. So x squared plus 4x squared plus twice the product, 12x plus 9 is equal to 18. If I take everything over to the left, I'm going to get 5x squared plus 12x minus 9 is equal to 0. So I'm going to hope that this factorizes. If not, I'll need to probably use the formula. So the only way to make 5x squared is by a 5x and an x. And then to make that work, then let's hope that, let's go 3 and 3. Can I make 12 out of that? That would be 15 minus 3 would give us 12. So that's going to be my factorized version. So I'm going to have two values for this. Either x is equal to 3 over 5 or x is equal to minus 3. If x is equal to 3 over 5, then that would become 6 over 5. So I'm finding my values for y now. So 2 lots of x would be 6 over 5 plus 3. So y would be equal to 21 over 5. Or minus 3 times by 2 is minus 6, plus 3 would be minus 3. So that should be y minus 3. So those are my two solutions. So let's split them up. I could have, when x is minus 3, y would be equal to minus 3. Or when x is equal to 3 over 5, y would be equal to 21 over 5. Okay. Okay, question 32. There are only red or blue counters in the bag. Jacob will select a counter, replace it, and then select a second counter. The probability that he selects 2 blue counters is 9 over 400. Calculate the probability of selecting 2 different counters. Okay, so if we think about this, the probability of selecting a blue counter followed by a blue counter if he's replacing is going to be, so the probability of blue, is going to be equal to the square root of 9 over 400. So that would be 3 over 20. So from that then, if we go if we kind of imagine this blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. So we've got 3 out of 20 here, so that would be 17 out of 20. And then likewise 3 out of 20, 3 out of 20, 17 out of 20, 17 out of 20. Probability of picking two different colours would be that branch and that branch. So we're going to have two lots of 3 over 20 times by 17 over 20, which is going to be 2 times by 3 over 20 times by 17 over 20. So that's going to give us 51 out of 200. Okay, question 33, simplify fully. So I'm going to factorize this as I write it. So actually I'm not fully factorizing. I can take out a factor of 3 there. That would give me 9x squared minus 16, which is a difference of 2 squares, which I'll come back to in a moment. And then if I'm factorizing that, that's going to go into 2 brackets, both beginning with 3x. Sorry, both beginning with 3x and x. And then I'm going to hope that I'm going to either have a plus 4 or a minus 4 here to match the numerator. So let's see what would work. So if it was a 4, the other one would be a 5. So does that work? Let's just put it in for now. 4 there and 5 there. And which way around would my negative and positives go? So if I had minus 15 plus 4, so that would work. So fully factorized, then I would actually have 3 times by 3x plus 4 times by 3x minus 4 over that numerator, denominator again, 3x plus 4 times by x minus 5. So those parts would cancel, leaving me with just 3 lots of 3x minus 4 over x minus 5. Okay, question 24. So we've got ABCD as a trapezium. So AB is parallel to DC. E is the point on the diagonal, so I'm going to assume that's point E. So that D to E is 1/4 of D to B. Prove that BC is parallel to AE. Okay, so BC is going to be equal to so to get from B to C, I've got to go minus 12 plus 8 plus 16. So let's write that, minus 12A plus 8B plus 16A. So that's going to give me a total of 4A plus 8B. Right, I can factorize that, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. Right, if I now look at AE, so A to E is going to be equal to A to D plus D to E, and I'm going to say that that's going to be equal to A to D is just 8B plus, and I'm going to say this is going to be 1/4 of D to B, which is going to be minus 8B plus 12A. So that's going to give me 8B plus 2B is going to be 8 minus 2 is going to be 6b. So 6b, and then plus a quarter, so plus 3a. Right, so I'm then going to factorise this by taking out a factor of 4, so that's going to be equal to 4 lots of a plus 2b, and I'm going to factorise that to say that's going to be 3 lots of a plus 2b, and then I'm going to say that in effect, it doesn't really matter which way around. So actually I'm going to say then BC over 4 is going to be equal to a plus 2b, and I'm going to say then a to e is going to be equal to a to e over 3 is going to be equal to a plus 2b. So a to e over 3 is going to be equal to b to c over 4. Therefore they are parallel, so must be parallel. Okay, and that brings us to the end of that paper. Really nice paper, really challenging, some good questions on there. Really enjoyed that. So again, I will put into the chapter titles the question topics if you're after any additional revision, along with kind of a timestamp to help you navigate through the video. Thank you very much for your time in watching. If you have any questions, comments or feedback, feel free to type them in the chat. If you like the video, please subscribe if you like. And other than that, good luck with your final revision, and I hope you get what you want in your final exam. Thank you very much, and see you soon.